a bite into the unknown, vampires in our minds. These creatures have haunted our dreams and nightmares for generations. Vampires. The word alone sends shivers down our spines. The mere thought of them can make our hearts race and our imaginations run wild. They lurk in the shadows, preying on the innocent, always waiting, always watching. They are the embodiment of our deepest fears. Their fangs drip with blood, a symbol of both fear and fascination. The allure of the vampire is undeniable, a mix of horror and seduction. From books to movies, vampires have captivated our imaginations for centuries. Their stories have been told and retold, each time adding new layers to the myth. But where did these creatures of the night come from? The origins of the vampire legend are as mysterious as the creatures themselves. And could there be any truth to the legends? Are they purely fictional, or do they have roots in real events and historical figures? Let's explore the mysterious world of vampires and separate fact from fiction. We'll journey through time and across cultures to uncover the truth. We'll delve into ancient folklore and modern interpretations. From the earliest tales to contemporary portrayals, we'll see how the vampire has evolved. We'll examine the myths and the science. What do historical records and scientific studies tell us about these enigmatic beings? Join me on this journey as we investigate the enduring legend of the vampire. Together, we'll uncover the secrets that have kept these creatures alive in our minds. Prepare to be surprised, perhaps even a little scared, but most of all, get ready to learn. The world of vampires is vast and full of mysteries waiting to be discovered. The vampire myth is older than you might think. Long before Hollywood, tales of bloodthirsty creatures roamed the earth. These stories weren't about handsome vampires with sparkling skin. They were much darker, more terrifying. Ancient cultures across the globe, from Mesopotamia to China, had their versions of vampire-like beings. These creatures often preyed on people, draining their life force, sometimes even their blood. They represented the fear of the unknown, of illness, and of death itself. These early tales show us how deeply rooted the vampire myth is in human history. It speaks to our primal fears and our fascination with the darkness that lies beyond our understanding. Over time, the vampire legend evolved. Certain characteristics became synonymous with vampires. We all know about garlic-repelling vampires, their aversion to sunlight, and their habit of sleeping in coffins. But where did these ideas come from? Many of these myths likely originated from a lack of scientific understanding. People didn't know what caused diseases or why bodies decomposed. They attributed these natural processes to supernatural forces, often to vampires. For example, the strong smell of garlic was thought to ward off disease, so it naturally became a weapon against vampires. Similarly, sunlight's role in decomposition might have led to the belief that vampires were sensitive to it. While vampires themselves might be fictional, some aspects of their lore are rooted in reality. There are actual medical conditions and historical practices that may have inspired vampire myths. One such condition is porphyria, a rare blood disorder that causes extreme sensitivity to sunlight, just like vampires. People with porphyria might have exhibited symptoms that seemed strange and frightening to those who didn't understand the disease. This could include paleness, receding gums, making teeth appear more prominent, and even an aversion to garlic due to its effect on the digestive system. These real-life ailments might have fueled the imagery of the vampire, making the legend seem all the more real and terrifying. Section 5. Porphyria and the Undead. A medical mystery. This chapter delves into the fascinating and eerie world of a rare medical condition that has puzzled scientists and historians alike. Porphyria is a group of disorders affecting red blood cells. These disorders are not just a single disease, but a collection of related conditions that impact the body's ability to produce heme. It's caused by a deficiency in certain enzymes involved in heme production. These enzymes play a critical role in the biosynthesis of heme, which is essential for various bodily functions. Heme is a crucial part of hemoglobin, the protein in red blood cells that carries oxygen throughout the body. Hemoglobin's ability to transport oxygen is vital for sustaining life and ensuring that all tissues receive the oxygen they need. Without enough heme, the body struggles to function properly. This deficiency can lead to a myriad of health issues, making everyday activities challenging and exhausting for those affected. People with porphyria often experience a range of symptoms, including abdominal pain, skin problems, and neurological issues. These symptoms can vary widely in severity and can be quite debilitating. In some severe cases, they may have discolored urine, sensitivity to sunlight, and even receding gums, which can make their teeth appear more prominent, like fangs. These symptoms can be particularly distressing and can significantly impact a person's quality of life. These symptoms, while explainable by science, might have contributed to the vampire myth in times when medical knowledge was limited. The striking resemblance between the symptoms of porphyria and the characteristics attributed to vampires in folklore is intriguing and has led to much speculation and myth-making throughout history. Section 6. Bats, blood and Bram Stoker, creating a monster. While ancient cultures had their vampire-like creatures, the vampire as we know it today emerged in Eastern European folklore. These tales were passed down through generations, often told around campfires or during long winter nights, capturing the imagination of listeners. These stories described undead beings who rose from their graves to prey on the living. They were often depicted as malevolent spirits or reanimated corpses, instilling fear in the hearts of those who heard the tales. The vampire myth solidified in the 18th century, fueled by reported vampire outbreaks and mass hysteria. Villagers would exhume bodies looking for signs of vampirism, such as a corpse that appeared unusually well preserved or had blood at its mouth. But it was Bram Stoker's 1897 novel, Dracula, that cemented the vampire's place in popular culture. Stoker's creation was not just a monster, but a complex character with a backstory, motivations, and a chilling presence. Stoker borrowed elements from folklore and added his own twists, creating a captivating and enduring monster. His Dracula was a blend of ancient myths and contemporary fears, making the character both timeless and relevant. He gave his vampire fangs a thirst for blood and a hypnotic gaze. These features made Dracula both terrifying and fascinating, a creature that could seduce and destroy. He also established many of the tropes we associate with vampires today, like their aversion to sunlight and garlic. These elements have become staples in vampire lore, influencing countless books, movies, and TV shows. Section 7. The vampire craze, our enduring fascination. From onward, vampires never left our collective imagination. Countless books, movies, and TV shows have explored the vampire myth, each adding its own interpretation. We've seen vampires as romantic heroes, tragic figures, and terrifying villains. But why are we so drawn to these creatures of the night? Perhaps it's the thrill of the unknown, the allure of immortality, or the exploration of our darker impulses. Whatever the reason, the vampire continues to fascinate us, reflecting our evolving fears and desires. From the classic horror of Nosferatu to the sparkling vampires of Twilight, the myth adapts and endures. Section 8. Hunting for evidence. Can science find a vampire? So, vampires are real in our imaginations, but what about in reality? Despite the prevalence of vampire myths, there's no scientific evidence to support their existence. No reputable studies have ever confirmed the existence of creatures that fit the traditional vampire description. While some people claim to be vampires or to have encountered them, these accounts are usually anecdotal and lack verifiable proof. Scientifically speaking, the idea of a reanimated corpse that needs blood to survive goes against the laws of biology and physics. Decomposition is a natural process that cannot be reversed, and there's no known mechanism for a dead body to sustain itself on blood. Section 9. Beyond belief, the power of myths and legends. While vampires might not be real in the literal sense, they represent very real human fears and anxieties. They embody our fear of death, disease, and the unknown. Vampire myths also reflect our fascination with power, immortality, and the darker aspects of human nature. Myths and legends like the vampire serve a purpose. They help us make sense of the world around us, explore complex themes, and confront our deepest fears. So, even if we know that vampires aren't real, The stories we tell about them can still teach us about ourselves and the human condition. Section 10. The real monsters facing our fears. In the end, the most important lesson the vampire myth teaches us is that the real monsters are often human. Throughout history, humans have committed acts of cruelty and violence far more terrifying than any fictional creature. Instead of fearing the supernatural, we should focus on understanding and overcoming the darkness that exists within ourselves and our societies. Rather than searching for vampires in the shadows, let's strive to create a world where the real monsters, hatred, intolerance, and violence have no place. The vampire myth might be a captivating tale, but it's up to us to build a reality where we don't need monsters to fear.